Hi, welcome to another episode of Mr. Marty. Well, today I'm wearing my Utah Utes white t-shirt before I have to go out and put on my DMA shirt and write some parking tickets, but I'm trying to send Allison kind of a subliminal message here, I'm chomping at the bit to be an infant teacher in the best daycare facility in the state of Utah. So anyways, kind of a subliminal message out there, Allison. And by the way, happy birthday! I know it's your birthday today, so called up to wish you a happy birthday. But you're having a good time out and about, enjoying your special day. So I want to come on here today, and I want to talk about empathy, and specifically say empathy in babies. And is that something that you teach, or is that something that is just innate in all babies and all human beings? And by the way, my hair is doing some really weird things. This is what happens after you get 50. I mean, you're grateful for whatever hair you have, but it's kind of like kind of weird. So it's like, yeah, when you get in your 50s, it's like, okay, I'm happy to have hair, but it's doing strange things. So I'm up here like the buckwheat thing on my head. So and I first wanted to say that, look, for those of you who don't, kind of know me or know background or whatever, and I just want to say at the outset, I'm not an expert on any of these topics. I mean, I'm changing careers now. I'm going from parking enforcement. I want to be an infant teacher, and that's why I put in these resumes to daycare facilities, and hence why I've talked about Bright Horizons a lot, because I did a working interview up there a couple weeks ago. But I'm not an expert, and I'm learning this stuff. I mean, I went to college, but I didn't major in early childhood education. I majored in history, and I took a lot of sociology and philosophy courses and things of this nature. So I'm very familiar with the human condition and the human condition, this state of humanity, and how we grow and develop has always interested me. But specifically, child development, I don't have a lot of knowledge in that, and I'm getting that knowledge. I'm reading as much as I can, and I'm studying as much as I can, and whatnot. But I don't want to present myself as some kind of an expert, because I'm not. I'm learning, and that's why I want to be an infant teacher, and I want to learn from people who know a lot more than I do, and that's why I read these books and go on blogs and stuff. So here's a question. Empathy is something that we have an interest, no matter who we are and where we kind of come from, as far as our, say, political views or how we think society should be organized. We all have an interest in empathy, in healthy, well-rounded individuals, adults who were well-rounded, healthy infants and toddlers and children that grow into be healthy, well-rounded adults who have this sense of empathy, well-developed sense of empathy, and Webster defines empathy as the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. The ability to understand and share the feelings of another. And you hear people complain all the time in this society, well, nobody cares about anybody anymore, and the person cut me off in traffic and gave me the finger or whatever, this or that, and the person wouldn't help that elderly person or whatever, and we have this sense that maybe people are not being empathetic enough, and not displaying enough empathy. So the question is, how where does empathy come from? And again, I'm not an expert, but I'm just kind of giving you my sense of kind of how I see empathy, and kind of how I see it related to the infant room and with babies. And curiously, I first heard kind of this idea, this concept, because you kind of think that it's taught. Many people say, well, unless you have like scriptures or some type of religious training, some type of holy book that tells people that this is right, this is wrong, that you don't know what's right and you don't know what's wrong, and you don't really have that ability to empathize with people, that has to be taught or whatnot. And I think that's where a lot of us kind of came from, that this is kind of a something that's taught. But I first heard the idea from a guy who's not in child development at all, an author named Sam Harris, who's written on topics of religion and agnosticism. He's an atheist, and Sam Harris is considered one of the quote new atheists, along with Richard Dawkins and the late Christopher Hitchens. But Sam Harris has wrote a number of books, The End of Faith, and some of the other ones are escaping my mind now. But Sam Harris once said, I was listening to him give a lecture, I think shortly after he published the book The End of Faith, and he was saying, look, kids, small children already have this innate sense of right and wrong and empathy, that it's already there, and that what you have to do is just kind of build on that, but they don't really need to be taught, hey, you have to have empathy, or hey, this is right or this is wrong. And I think there's a certain amount of truth to that. And again, I'm not an expert. I'm not going to come out here and say, hey, I know that this is true, but I'm kind of like coming around to that. And I think Janet Lansbury, kind of comes from the same position, in the sense that children, come in this world and they kind of have that already in them, and that what's needed is to just kind of hone that and kind of develop that. But that sense of empathy is already there, and so it's interesting. So what could you do as an infant teacher? And I've often thought about this. If that innate ability to have empathy, to the ability, as Webster defines it, the ability to understand and share the feelings of another, if that's already there, present in babies, and I suspect that it is. I suspect that it is. And so what really do you do? What is your role as an infant teacher? And I think that, and this is just kind of my view, again, I could be totally wrong about this. I'm a student, I'm just learning this. But I kind of think that, you're basically, being the example, that, again, going back to being the change that you want to see in other people, the change that you want to see in society. And I just think that you as an infant teacher, being that empathy, that source of empathy, that empathetic teacher that is there in the infant room. And again, going back to the definition, understanding and sharing the feelings of another, that you're understanding and sharing those feelings of those babies that are in your care, and you're honing, you're developing their sense. They've already got this sense of empathy. They already can kind of understand and share the feelings of others around them, and that just needs to be developed and not so much taught as and you can go into all forms of teaching, but not so much where you're just kind of pouring into an empty vessel, but where that's already there in the infant, and you're just kind of helping to develop that, just kind of helping that along. And that's just where I'm kind of coming from. And I wanted to speak to this idea of empathy. We need more of it in the world. We, I got to tell you, and this is just an outsider observing. I've been on YouTube, and there's just a ton of videos out there where people have taken cameras into infant rooms, like across the country, and they've just filmed it for various reasons. I think one was like a school project or something, or maybe it's the center itself, and they're wanting to show off different aspects of their centers, some of which are not so much flattering, or you might not want shown. But But you can go on and watch these videos. And I was just watching one the other day, and I started thinking about this idea of empathy and empathy in the infant room. And, as an infant teacher, conveying that and kind of teaching or bringing that out in the babies. And I was watching this one teacher, and I'm thinking it was like somewhere in New York, because she kind of had like a kind of a New York accent. My ears pick up on regional accents, and I believe it was somewhere in New York City. And I was watching this teacher with these infants. She wasn't very empathetic. I just want to tell you folks, I mean, she wasn't mean to the babies. She wasn't, being abusive, and she was kind of proactive. I mean, I was just kind of watching. The camera was like following. The camera was, I think it was a dad in there. He was kind of like filming his son. I think it was his son's birthday or something, but he was filming everything that was going on in this infant room that his son was in, and so he was catching the one of the teachers on camera, on film, and so I was focused on her. I was just kind of like watching her, even though she's like kind of in the background, and this dad is like focusing on his kid. I'm watching this teacher, and I'm watching her going around to these babies. She's not very empathetic with them. And I was thinking about it, and I thought, if I was one of those infants and I'm in that teacher's classroom, I'm not, if I have that innate sense of empathy already in me, if I have that already in me, that's not really being developed. That's not really being kind of brought out and built upon and honed and shaped into what we really want. We want really empathetic children that grow up to be really empathetic adults. That's what we want. And we can all agree on that. Liberal, Democrat, Republican, conservative, whatever stripe we are, Muslim, Christian, atheist, Buddhist, whatever we are. We can all agree that we need more empathy. We need more empathy in this society. We need more empathy. And so I was just watching this, and I kept thinking, if I was a baby, I just wouldn't be developing that. So I think we should do that. I think that should be, along with all these other things that we're doing in teaching, I think that should be a big part of it. Going that extra of really, again, going back to the definition, to understand and share the feelings of another, to understand and share the feelings of another. And it goes back to Janet Lansbury that I talked about in a previous video about respecting the feelings of those babies, of those infants and toddlers, and giving respectful care. And that's part of it. That's part of empathy. It's your understanding and sharing, which, ipso facto, you also respect. You respect those feelings. And so I just wanted to come on here and kind of like start this discussion. Maybe you guys have a different view or whatnot of empathy in young babies and children. And again, I'm just kind of learning, but this is just kind of my take. And I'm not an expert. I've never taken child development classes. I'm thinking probably some of you out there going, well, yeah, it shows because you don't know anything. And maybe I don't. And that's okay. Mr. Marty is learning, and that's what I want to do. I want to learn, and if I'm wrong, then correct me. And I'm open to that. I'm open to correction. So let me know if I'm kind of off base on this, and I'm not getting it right, because I want to get it right. But that's just how I kind of am coming at this thing. That I think children have this innate sense of empathy that we as infant teachers. And I'm an aspiring infant teacher, not there yet, but I want to. Allison, subliminal message here with the Utah Utes t-shirt. But anyways, that's just me and my 2 cents. And another episode of Mr. Marty. Go out there, folks. Have an awesome day, a positive day. And until next time, thank you.